Hey guys, my next guest is someone I met at my first International Society of Caricature Artists convention. I was immediately blown away by the painting he was doing. I couldn't believe that you could exaggerate caricatures so much and still make it look so good. He was using really incredible form, a great color palette, and just had also larger than life personality. He's been a continued source of inspiration for me artistically and also just in life to as a reminder to keep pushing myself and never settle for less. So I'm very honored and excited to announce my next guest, fellow exaggerating maniac Manny Avetisyan.
So to start this off right, we gotta have the morning wine.
The morning wine. Yeah,
I
that's
don't
right.
really drink.
It's
I don't
12
drink
o'clock.
wine, but my. Oh, go ahead. What?
It's 12 o'clock where you're at, right?
Yeah, I don't drink wine, but for my anniversary, we just had our 7-year anniversary yesterday, or the day before,
Oh, cheers.
December 7,
Congratulations.
anyway. Thank you. And clink, clink, and a friend of mine was staying with me, working on a project, and he bought me and Natalia some wine, even though Natalia's in Russia. So,
You get the whole bottle to yourself.
whole bottle to myself. It's pretty decent. I like this. It's not expensive, but cupcake. I like sweet wines, and this reminds me of a little bit of Georgian wine, not the state, the country.
Yeah. I love that you clarified that. Um,
You have to every time, man. I don't know. I think the country came first.
seven
Or
years is as long as you've been married or as long as you've been together.
what?
You said you have a 7-year anniversary, right?
Oh no, tell them we've been married. We met 6 months before we were married.
Oh, okay. 6 months. Okay.
Yeah.
I was looking at your website, by the way. I think it might be a little outdated, eh?
Oh, VetiArts.com.
Yeah. It looks like
No,
it's
that
about
thing is
5 years old.
garbage. You nailed it, man. It is 5 years old. How did you know?
I just know your
Are
work
you
so well.
a
I stalk you so much.
you're like a crime scene investigator. You go to a website, but you specialize in websites where you're like you date websites. You go to a website, you're like, this website hasn't been visited in 3 days,
Based
and it
off
is
the
8 years old. That's pretty good, man.
based off the artistic progress, yeah.
Oh man, you are good. You are
It is
good,
it
Sam. How
it
are you
is
guys?
yeah, we're doing okay. We're pretty excited about the new baby, our first baby,
Yeah,
and
that is exciting. That's
picked the worst time to get pregnant, like in the history of human beings, like during
just
coronavirus.
about,
Say
just
what?
about, just about. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I got some news that I'm basically I don't know if you would call it unemployed, but it's like underemployed now. Like the artist association I was working for on the Charles Bridge, basically some new legislation came through and now we can work like 30% of what we were working before. So yeah, it was crazy, man. It was like a dream come true, like starting to reach like the higher point in my career, and then it just got like chopped down.
Are they
I got
going to subsidize that income? Because that's I don't understand how if you make a decision that's gonna cut someone's pay, what's your plan to subsidize? How do people survive? Some people need every last dime, you know. Now
Mhm.
people can consolidate their spending, and to be honest, like I know people in other countries look at America like, oh, Americans can definitely cut back because every extra dollar we have, we spend on Amazon bullshit purchases, you know, which happens a lot. It just obviously the evidence is that Amazon is doing better than ever during a time when people are losing their jobs and it's a freaking pandemic because Americans are retarded and they don't think, hey, what if I don't have a job next year? What if this thing gets worse? You know, they don't save their money. They just want to keep feeding the beast that's going to enslave them in the future.
Oh man, this just got esoteric.
You know what I mean?
I feel
Whatever,
like
you know,
I feel like
you
you're
got to
gonna
do
put
what
on
you
a
got to do.
System of the Down song now.
No, you have to. You know, you got to throw that into the editing after.
Oh yeah, okay, okay. I'll put that in. I'll put a time signature now. Let me take note of that.
Yeah,
8 minutes and 58 seconds. System of a Down.
and action. Die! It gets cold at night here, so I get the heater going to
Are
like
you in
80
the RV?
degrees, and then by the time I wake up, I'm just in a sweat lodge.
Well, I actually wanted to ask you about that. That's one of the questions I had about. I was just thinking about kind of life in an RV. Are you, I guess you probably kind of have everything mapped out, like places you can park and camp and stuff by now, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna advertise it because it's already crowded enough. But what? Yeah. So Natalia is the genius behind all of our logistics. She's mapped out 7 years of travel shows. She does that part of the business.
Hmm.
She figures out where we're gonna stay, and anytime I need to know, I just ask her. I'm like, hey, where are we gonna be next week? And she just tells me. And then I focus on other aspects of the business and other projects and whatnot. But yeah, we for in 7 years we've grown a route that starts in Florida and takes us all the way. Basically, it's Florida, Louisiana. Yeah, what's after Florida? Yeah, Florida, Louisiana, Texas, Arizona, California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, Montana, Idaho, Montana. We added Idaho, and it's like crazy from there, like Utah and California, Arizona, and we usually end the season there. But yeah, it's all Natalia's planning. She's got the gift, man. You know, it's a very special skill she has where she just intuitively can see what route works best. You know, very seldom do we have to backtrack our route. It's usually one directional, but because the fair game is so fluid and unpredictable, you can plan out a perfect route for 1 year and just have like, oh my God, these shows are the best. And then the following year, a bunch of your best shows overlap because they move dates and it just makes no sense. And
Oh.
because it's people think there's one carnival that does 100,000 shows across the country every year. You know, when they ask you like, "Hey, so do you travel with the does everyone travel with a carnival?" And
Yeah, the carnival,
you go to
like
all the
the
carnivals?
the one carnival, yeah.
Yeah, I think your mic cut off there. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying like when people say, "Oh yeah, the go join the carnival," as if there's only one carnival, right?
Right, and people will ask me, "Hey, do you work all the shows?" And I just have to kind of explain every time, like, well, look, it's like a moving swap meet, but there's like, I don't know, 10,000 of these, or maybe probably fewer. I'm probably overstating that, but yeah, it's hard to find shows that go back to back to back that are successful, but you know, we've done well enough to where before COVID we had two crews, one full time, one part time for the summer, and we were just enjoying ourselves. You know, we love the company, we love our friends joining us, and we've had a lot of artists come and go, and uh, you know, it's been a most pleasant, delightful, fun lifestyle. And of course that lifestyle is under threat now. We don't know, and none of the carnivals know what's going to happen. Even the big carnivals. I mean, these are multi-million dollar organizations that roam the country, and they're most likely constantly in debt because you're buying new rides all the time, and rides are 500,000 million bucks. So you got these loans to pay off. You got a crew of dozens, hundreds of workers that are relying on you, and unfortunately, probably the types of workers that are the ones that are overlooked uh, first during a situation like this. So it's a really, really tragic thing for the industry, and it's also an opportunity to evolve. It's there's Tony Robbins. I just
Tony
said Tony
Robbins.
Rogers.
Yeah.
Tony
Tony
Robbins quote,
Rogers, that's his cousin. He's the less successful Tony Robbins.
he didn't get the Robbins name, that's why. But they made a mistake and gave him the first name, and didn't realize that it's the last name that counts.
Poor bastard.
But he says something like, "Don't be surprised as to the strange shores you find yourself if you don't steer your own ship." So my philosophy is, I will never let myself be tossed around by the winds and the waves. I rather learn to walk on water if I have to, which isn't possible, but maybe that means building a raft or something for myself. And so we've managed other ways, and so have other artists. I see a lot of my friends who are doing commissions and Zoom gigs and parties, and they're on the same philosophy. They're not gonna let something derail them, and that's what we have to do. Evolve or die.
Hey y'all, thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying the interview. I work really hard to bring great content and awesome artists to help inspire you and entertain you. So if you're interested in helping out and supporting us, you can support us on Patreon. The link is below. When you support us on Patreon, we actually provide you with up to 4 professional critiques each month. You can just send in your artwork along with questions, and we'll give you a good 10 or 15 minutes on each one of those pieces. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for your support. Keep painting. Have fun.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk more about that, about like kind of your projects that you've been doing in a minute, but I kind of want to back up a little bit and just kind of like start with just one question, which is how you got started in art and how you overcame some of the obstacles along the way. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about your journey.
When I got started, let me try to do my hair like it was when I got started.
Oh, you were an emo kid?
I was like, "Hey, man." No, I was never an emo kid, actually. I was, when I got started, I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses still. And I was very much a slacks and loafers church boy. Jason Riggs, who runs a big operation on the East Coast, he used to do zoos, and he was running the LA Zoo with Jeremy Miller. And they were 2 rad dudes, they're just young, and they had at the time a bunch of zoos, I think, in Ohio, Miami, God, I don't even know all the zoos they had, and they acquired the LA Zoo. And I was at the Art Institute in Santa Monica getting a degree in computer animation, special effects, multimedia design, that kind of stuff.
This is straight out of high school, right?
Yeah, right out of high school. I graduated when I was 17, a little early, I think a semester early or so, because I started taking college classes while I was in high school. And each college class counts as 2 high school classes, so I was able to speed ahead with a good friend of mine back then. We both made it a plan to take as many psychology classes as we could. because they were offered college psychology classes were offered at our high school by a very, very hot teacher.
Oh, nice.
And Miss De La Garza, if you're
Oh.
out there, oh yeah, she was very sexy and very intelligent, and an excellent lecturer, and made it interesting because, you know, if she wanted to make a point, she knew you. She wanted you to remember. She would sit up on a table and cross her legs, and she had your full attention. You know, and so we took 3 years of psychology, and that just spurred us on to like go to the local Valley Community College and just keep taking college courses. So my last couple of years of 3 years of high school were just like part-time high school, part-time college courses. Um, and anyway, so then I jumped into the Art Institute, and I was going to go either for computer technology because I was a geek at the time who was building my own computers, um, or I was going to go the art route. And a friend of mine was going to the Art Institute and said, Manny, you should come check out the campus. I don't know if he was getting paid to reel me in, but man, you know, he got me in. And it was a decent experience. I think the school was unprepared at the time. They were still doing a lot of construction while they took students on, and a lot of things weren't working, like computers, internet, things were off, and a lot of students were complaining, wanting their tuition back. I was one of them. And to to help my drawing along, I would go to the zoo about once or twice a week by myself or with fellow students like my friend who got me into the school, and we would go draw the animals for practice and just to keep up our chops. And one day, just walking by with my sketchbook on my way to the gorillas, because they were my favorite to draw, the gorillas and the chimps. And the gorillas would occasionally entertain a guest by flinging poo and try to nail a guest or two in the head. They were really good at that. So I was on my way out there, and there was this dude, Joe Torres, Lefty Joe, they called him, because he was missing a left nut, or he only had a left nut, I forget. Joe was like, "Hey, are you an artist?" He was a very excitable young guy, Latino guy. "Are you an artist? Let me see your sketchbook." And he was working at the caricature stand. He was like their first employee slash manager guy, young, still in college himself. And I showed him my sketchbook, and he was like, "Oh man, you're really good. You're really good, man. You should work here. You should get hired, man." Like that. And I was like, "Oh, I can't draw caricatures. You guys are nuts." I loved caricatures. Like every time I would walk by a stand, I would be enamored. I would stand there and just like, "Oh my God, how is he doing that?"
Yeah,
I would
me
just get
too.
this like feeling, you know. Do you remember that feeling you would get, like your back of your the hair on the back of your neck would stand up, and you would just be at like you would get this certain sensation that sometimes I'm able to recall, and it's very nostalgic. But this feeling of like being enamored by somebody creating these incredible lines and exaggerations. You
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that
When I
feeling?
when I think of it, I think of like I get an image of myself with my jaw open like this and like, blinking stars like around my face.
Yeah, man. That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Oh, so many times I would go to Universal Studios, City Walk, and watch amazing artists out there. Vlad, I forget his last name. He's in Vegas now. Damian Dunn was out there one time when I visited. I just told him, "Hey, I do caricatures too," and he was like, "You do? Sit down!" And he gave me a free black and white sketch that blew my mind. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, that's
Shout
cool. So
out
he was already
to my buddy
rocking along
Damien.
whenever you sat for him, huh? Like he was already in the career for a while, yeah.
Yeah, he was the Dunisher. Look him up. He's incredible. Um, but yeah, so uh, I got hired through a test. I showed up for a test. They were like, "Hey, come take this test," and I walked in, and there was like, I forget, like 3 or 4 other dudes there, and maybe a girl, and Jeremy was like, "Hey, draw me with a marker," and I freaked out and did the best I could, and I don't know. Jason was kind of taking care of the larger operation. Jeremy was specifically, I think, doing the zoo, so he was more involved there. And I took my test with this other dude named Roman, who was a Russian Jew. I remember for some reason that just stood out to me, and he was a very skittish, like nervous kid. And he was like, so you think we got it? You think we got the job?" And I was like, "I don't think so, man. Keep going. Forget it. I'm going back to college, and I'm gonna go or baboon's ass, and forget about it." I thought I bombed real because back I went from being a portrait artist. Now I could always draw. I could draw like any other kid who can copy something exactly, and you start off by copying, right? Is that how
Yeah.
you got your start?
Yeah, definitely. It was always there were different like cartoons and stuff that I would copy, or I would copy out of a book. Do you remember that book? It was called like How to Draw 50 Monsters, or it was like How to Draw like whatever. There was this whole series of books like How to Draw this or whatever, this or that.
No.
And I remember I drew this
No.
like really gnarly zombie guy and like totally freaked my mom out. And that's, that was one of those moments where I was like, yeah, this is it.
You got a reaction, right?
Mhm.
I think we do it for like as an artist, if you draw and get no reactions ever, you might just quit, unless your situation's so bad you just have to get lost into that world of art. But to me, and I think many artists, it's like when you turn that drawing around or you show someone, and that might determine why some artists continue to react negatively towards their own art, right? I know so many brilliant artists I work with, I won't name right now, but you know who you are. You self-loathing. Most artists are self-loathing, that you'll tell them, "Man, that looks amazing." They're like, "Nah, no, it's garbage." And I keep trying to think where that stems from because of my extensive years in Miss De La Garza's psychology class. Um, it may come from the different reactions we got as kids when we showed our art. Plus we're shy about it a little bit.
Mhm.
I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah,
that
it
might
could
be a
it
that
could
might
be
be a
like a
motive.
chicken or the egg thing. It might come from like low esteem or low worth or low self-worth, and then like the artist gets some kind of positive recognition for their artwork. So that's like the one area that they get some positive feedback. So they like stick to that. And then we get older and then, we have to like mature emotionally. And then we get to this point where it's like we start to like our own work.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
somehow
Not everybody
connected to
gets there. I'll tell you that.
you what? What'd you say?
Not everybody gets there.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets there. There's artists who are very successful in their 60s, 70s, 80s who are extremely humble and their biggest critics, their own biggest critics. They'll look at something that everybody loves and they'll say, "It just, no, I'm not happy with it because it didn't turn out exactly like I envisioned." It's
Mhm.
funny. I was listening to, and this is art across the board. This is everybody who does something creative. When you create something that didn't exist before you made it, in the way that it exists. I was watching Dave Letterman's uh, show on Netflix. How does it go? My next guest needs no
Needs no.
introduction,
Yeah,
something
you
like
got it.
that.
Yeah.
And he was interviewing, of all people, one of the most successful rappers in history, Jay-Z, and he asks him about like Empire State of Mind, which I thought was like one of his greatest accomplishments. And he's like, "Yeah, just it didn't turn out the way I wanted." And I'm like, he's like, "Didn't turn out the way I envisioned." So while others look at that work like, "Oh my God, I bumped that song. The beat's good. The everything's good about that. The chorus is amazing. Alicia Keys is fantastic." Jay-Z's words, I think, are cool. Um, he's like, no, I'm just not happy with it. It was either Empire State of Mind or Forever Young. I think actually it was Forever Young, which again is, I think, I love that song. I bumped it a million times, you know, and yeah, it was Forever Young. He's like, it just didn't turn out the way I wanted. So I think artists are, that's what makes successful artists successful, unfortunately, and a little depressed or never completely satisfied,
Yeah.
is just that hunger for perfection in the terms that we've defined in our own heads, which
Yeah.
we'll never achieve. You know?
And I'm actually getting. I want to bring up this concept of the style gap, but before I do that, I'm actually want to talk about that for a second, about that, like, never being good enough, or like the work never being good enough or whatever. I actually am facing like this point in my life now where, um, I've, over the years, I've done a lot of like self kind of evaluation and inventory, and like, and spiritual work and emotional work and whatever. I'll skip all the details on that, but basically, like, I'm getting to a point where I realize, like, I just have to accept myself for who I am and accept my work for what it is. And like, I realize that that's like the healthy way to go about life and not stress myself out too much. But I'm afraid. I'm afraid to do that because I'm afraid then I'm not going to like make as much work, or I'm not going to grow as quickly, or you know what I mean? And I just have to keep
Yeah.
reminding myself, like, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. Like, I have to say that to myself a lot, because I'll start spinning. I just I
Right.
get stuck and start spinning.
No, that's a great point you make. In fact, I actually touch upon that in the Ultimate Guide, the book, Ultimate Guide to Modern Life Caricature. Is there's a point, in any healthy growth of anything, and this is whether it's music, dance, art, visual art, you name it. Everybody starts off practicing like they're influencers. You start when you playing guitar, you play some Metallica. Every guitarist that I know, maybe this is an LA thing, everybody would play Metallica and Nirvana, man. Like, those are the two bands that everybody started, and eventually you make your own music, but that's absolutely going to influence what you do, right? So the same as caricature, and the quickest way to growth is to embrace that method. The more an artist avoids that method, the more I see them spinning their wheels and not really gaining as much traction. It's the denial that you have to copy and steal, like the book, steal like an artist. You have to copy. Old masters copied, new masters copy, and every artist is copying whether they know it or they don't.
Yeah.
But the artist that doesn't embrace that idea as a huge step for growth is just spinning their wheels. And by copy, I mean you start drawing like the artist you favor, and then you throw in a second, third, fourth influence in there inevitably,
Hmm.
and you have your own way. No matter what you do, you'll never draw exactly like your heroes anyway. You're
Hmm.
gonna have your little weird nuances, right?
Hmm.
And your own flaws are gonna lead to new innovations, right? Your own skill sets, background. But that's how you start. You start copying your favorite artists and throwing in some mixes, and then eventually that leads to something that looks like a hybrid poor execution of your hero's work, plus your own little voice starts like poking its head out there, because you can't avoid your little tendencies. Like, let's say you like to draw eyelids a certain way, or the bags under the eyes, or you're very like certain, you favor certain things, like drawing no neck, going from the head down to the body, that, let's say, not everybody is mainstreamed yet. And eventually you find a little niche that others haven't tapped into, plus all your favorite artists' influence and other cartoonists' influence. And now you have your own voice. And there's this threshold that I found where you get to a certain point where you're stuck between the two worlds. and you have to release. You have to let yourself surrender into yourself and embrace your own work and start, because a few years of copying and trying to draw like your favorite artist, you already have the foundation. You can let that go, and you got to jump into it and fully embrace your own style, your own skills, and start honing that. And that eventually, so you go from, like, it's like life. You go from like your parents, their support, their influence, and eventually you break off. And there's this moment where you're vulnerable and you don't know what your next step is going to be, and you feel kind of lost and you're not confident. But then if you keep working on that, working on it, working on it, and then start loving your own work and start appreciating little things that you do that are unique to yourself, then you look back, like you're saying, you start to like your own work. You're like, hey, that's kind of cool. And it's the hardest thing in the world, right? To like see your own work objectively.
Mm-hmm.
But once you're able to like look at it and say, okay, that's actually not too bad, and you start honing that, chipping away at all the flaws and keep building, then that's like the next level. That's when you have your own style. You've worked at it long enough to fine tune it, tweak it, remove the flaws, and now you're executing only what you can do to the best of your ability, and there's nothing else like it in the world.
Yeah, and then you just flow. That's the beautiful thing about it. It's such a great feeling. Like I did a just a live launch for a course, a caricature course that I did for a Czech company, like a Czech online school here, and
Hmm.
I just had my camera pointing down and I drew the burglars from Home Alone, and it was like a quick demonstration drawing. It wasn't a studio level piece, but I did it in 30 minutes, and like I was able to teach as I'm drawing, and like I was just in this flow state, man. I was doing the
Yeah.
drawings and I'm like, yeah, and you can put the light right here and you leave a little edge right there, and like everything that I learned I was just able to do intuitively, and it was such an awesome feeling. That's the best. That's the best feeling. Like especially when you get a huge line of people. My most recent one that I remember, like most recent long flow that I got into was when these customers sat down, they're like, just make me as ugly as you possibly can, like you do whatever you want, you know and I'm like, yeah. So I just like went crazy and they loved it, and then there was this huge line at that point, like that one
Right.
drawing built this line, and everyone's like, yeah, do me like that, like beast me like that, so I'm just like nailing everybody, and it's like it's a moment
That
of
is
bliss,
great.
it's like as high as
Yeah,
you can ever
man.
get.
When he got the flow, you feel it so. You know, that's The Last Dragon, by the way. Great movie in the 80s. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's unfortunate that a lot of artists who don't just take that risk and jump in and embrace their own voice and just go all out will, of course they'll get crowds, and they might get people watching them and fan clubbing them, and all that stuff's fantastic. But when you're the only dude on that bridge that has a big crowd because you're the craziest guy out there,
Yeah.
that's a special club.
Yeah, yeah. And it changes the tide too. Like people, like the other artist on the bridge will come up and they'll be like, they'll ask me questions and stuff, because they've been drawing the same for like the last 20 years, So they're like, hey, what was that book you were telling me about? And I've showed a lot of them your book, and
Oh, rad, dude.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's so cool to kind of like bring like new, fresh energy. So I'm gonna
Well,
change topics now because now I'm really, really
yeah,
sad.
please.
I might start crying because I'm probably gonna lose that.
No,
um,
you won't, man. Things flow, things ebb and flow. Like I always say, never get sad over your future state, because nobody ever knows where they're gonna be in 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years. You never know. I would have never guessed 10 years ago I would be 7 years on a road you would have never guessed you'd probably be in Prague. Like you never know. So
Yeah,
don't get sad
definitely
over
not.
tomorrow. You just do the best you can. Try to stay ahead of the curve. Have some have some things in your pocket where you're not at the at the mercy of the tide, and just keep rolling with it, man. Humans are survivors.
What were you doing 10 years ago?
Do you want a picture of me 10 years ago?
You got one? Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. Well, I think I have some photos in my Facebook. 10 years ago,
We're gonna put this
Manny
up.
Avetisyan.
Uh-huh.
10 years. Don't go to my Facebook. 10 years ago, Manny Avetisyan was a 28-year-old elder. I was one of the youngest elders. I was the youngest elder in my congregation, where there was like 4 other elders. I was running the ministerial training school. I was teaching the entire congregation weekly on how to teach the Bible, how to preach door to door. As Jehovah's Witnesses, we teach door to door. How to answer questions that people have, because witnesses, if you've ever talked with one, are the best debaters. Like, they have answers for everything, which is also, I believe, part of their flaw. When you have answers for everything, you're definitely bullshitting some of those answers. So I was teaching entire congregations, and giving talks, and I had 6 Bible students of my own, and I was preaching door to door like 70 hours a month, and what else? Giving talks like Bible talks. Dude, I was like,
You
oh,
were
and
in
I
it
was
to
doing
win it.
artwork for the organization. I was doing some of the artwork that you find in the Watchtower and Awake magazines.
Uh-huh.
If anybody gets a hold of this, they're gonna like delete me and like go back and reprint all those magazines without my artwork. But not a lot of stuff, but I did contribute, and one of my goals back then was to move to New York, to the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, and be an artist there. Like, my lifelong endeavor was to be an artist. And I was an artist at the time. I was doing a lot of graphic design work. At the time, I was working for a company called Micromatic, doing their web marketing design, and I was their web marketing strategist and guy, doing all their email ads. And they're a beer-related company, so I was doing a lot of beer ads with like women in bikinis holding beer with like dudes around them, and silly stuff that the beer industry uses to sell you beer. And who doesn't feel like a champion with a good beer, in their hand? Even if there's no ladies around you, if there's a lady within proximity, you suddenly start, thinking that they're there because you're hot stuff, which is totally not true. That's just a beer, right?
Because you're drinking the Heineken. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
It's too
you're
many
drinking
beers.
the Heine. So I was doing design there. I was on salary. It was a good job, full benefits. It was the best job I ever had, where I was, working for somebody. And I was married at the time. I was married before I met the love of my life, my Natalia. I was married to another love of my life. She was an amazing woman. We're still very close friends, but we just were never meant to be married. We're soulmates as well. I think people will have many soulmates in their lives, people that they're connected to on the other side, that we'll find out after this life how we're all connected. But it's funny. My ex used to say that she thinks, well, actually, she says it now, that she thinks that in a past life she was my mother. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of weird, but yeah, I see it, because she was a caretaker type. She took care of me and made sure that I was maturing and doing art, and she never let me get a job that wasn't art related. And but anyway, we split up because she left the church, and then she wanted to go into acting, and I was like, well, if I'm leaving the church too, I'm not staying in LA. I want to go travel the world and just be crazy and nomadic. And so we decided amicably to split up, and each pursue our own um, truth, our own lives that we wanted, without holding each other back. And we did that. and she's still one of my best friends, and we've hung out more than once with Natalia, all three of us. Actually, it's kind of it's a strange thing. For me, anyways, probably more strange for me than it is for them to have all of us be hanging out. But here's a picture of three of us. I'm always weirded out because I think it's a strange thing to. You see that, all right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
I'm not.
you look definitely the most nervous in that picture. They both look pretty chill.
Yeah, they were chill, man, and it wasn't my idea. So I'm like, hey, if you girls want to hang out and all have dinner together, sure, I'm all for it. But I feel very fortunate, very blessed. I'm very happy for the universe giving me the life I have, man. I have a lot of amazing friends who guide me, down my path, and people who root for me and encourage me, and I try to do the same for them. But yeah, so I was married to her, to my ex at the time, and completely different life. I was a LA boy, never left LA really, and when my marriage ended, because we decided to just go down different paths, my career actually ended too. My plus job we had and the fancy apartment and all that went away because they moved to Florida, and I didn't want to move to Florida, even though they offered to pay the whole thing. I had to turn them down, and the only opportunity I had before me was Jason Riggs got in touch with me on Facebook, and he was like, "Hey man, you still draw? I see, I had posted these caricatures I had done of the Lost series.
Yeah.
They're still on my Facebook. They're actually pretty decent digital caricatures. I just never pursued digital after that, but I should have. I would have been at least half decent at it. I'm not very good at digital now, but he contacted me and said, "Hey, I'm not doing zoos anymore. I'm doing fairs. Why don't you? I'll fly you out. I'll fly you out to Virginia. Come work the show, hang out with some artists, put some money in your pocket, and go home. And I started doing that in 2012. I flew out once while I was still married, and I really enjoyed myself. I met amazing artists like started studying when I was 7. I was, indoctrinated very, very, very young. And I don't regret any of it because I think, it saved me from a lot of things. My family's quite the dysfunctional family, abuse, lots of abuse, alcoholism, and, other members of my family didn't turn out so well. So I think it saved me from getting into a life of drugs and other things that would have maybe wrecked me, given um, my mental state growing up, my psychology. I
Mhm.
wasn't headed down the best paths. But I think a short stint into some kind of community that kind of looks after you and make sure that you're not, you know, you don't start smoking at a young age, you don't start drinking at a young age, even though we were doing plenty of that. I was in a rock band when I was 16, we were rocking, drinking a lot, but it still like saved me from like hardcore drugs. My bandmates were witnesses, and even though we played System of a Down, we played Metallica, we played Tool, we still were like, we knew how to. Every kid growing up in a cult, whether it's like Mormonism or hardcore Catholicism or Jehovah's Witnesses or any of them, know how to have one foot in the religion and still keep balance so you don't lose your freaking mind.
Mhm.
And we did that. We were in a rock band. We played shows around L.A., the Whiskey a Go Go, Troubadour,
Nice.
Viper Room. We played some shows and drank and try to keep a healthy balance between having fun and being super religious. But at the
Was
same
your
time, it kept
family
me
were your
from
family
hardcore drugs.
witnesses?
Yeah, everyone, man, everyone, extended family, cousins, uncles, relatives.
Whoa.
And by the time I left, it was a very strange thing where when you leave the witnesses, you're ostracized, right? So they're not allowed to really, they're discouraged from talking to you. And if you get disfellowshipped, which is like excommunicated, they're absolutely not allowed to even look at you. It's very strange. They
Whoa.
feel like they shun you. You're an apostate, you're gross, God hates you.
Oh.
They won't say that, but they do say, and they cannot deny this, that you are dead in God's eyes. When
Whoa.
you're disfellowshipped as a witness, they say you are dead in God's eyes. So if you're dead in God's eyes, to them, you're certainly not somebody that they're gonna, consider.
Whew.
So I was lucky enough because I slipped through the cracks somehow. I don't know if anybody sees this; they might follow through with it, but I just left. To be disfellowshipped, you have to come before a committee, and there's a bit of like a trial where these elders who think they're, sitting at God's throne judge you, and they disfellowship you, and they tell the congregation, they announce your freaking name from the stage in front of people you've known your whole life, and they say, this person is no longer one of Joe's witnesses. And then they follow up with like half an hour talk about what you did to get you disfellowship, whether
Whoa.
it's sexual misconduct, drugs, whatever. They don't outright say it, but everybody knows the talk following the disfellowshipping is what you did. And so everyone just thinks you're a freak. Everyone just
There's
thinks you're a leper because you're like, oh my God, man, this person's dead in God's eyes and they're a sinner and they don't talk to you.
there's
Personally,
a
I just slipped, a lot of people and friends I have slipped through the cracks by just avoiding the trial and just leaving. But
Mhm.
it still holds the same weight where they see you not as disfellowshipped, but as a bad association.
Mm.
So they still stay away from you.
Mm.
And I can tell you that in 7 years, I've had a handful of people still contact me because I'm not disfellowshipped and just try to reach out to me. Some are still trying to save me, and others are just like, hey, I just want to make sure you're okay. But a lot of people I was like this with, even relatives, have just in 7 years not even once try to call or contact me. That's what it
That
is.
reminds me, well, I'm sorry to hear that, I guess I should say, but
I'm
I
not. It's fine.
um
The only things that they want to talk about is bringing you back to the church, and
yeah, that's
I got other things to talk about, man. So
yeah,
good riddance.
yeah. That actually there's two things that made me think about. Number one, I have certain family members that I can't even talk to them without them going into this what I call conspiracy cult. Um, But that reminds me
Yeah,
of this thing in the Czech Republic. There was a thing called Charter 77, and it started circulating around 1977, and it eventually came to a head in the fall of communism. Like it was basically a charter to kind of like change the way communism worked, and it picked
yeah,
up so much momentum. It was like, okay, we just need to end communism altogether. But what happened was, is if you signed this charter, they would go on public radio and they would call out your name on public radio, and you
oh
like
no,
lost your job and you lost like all of your professional and public associations, everything. So
wow,
so it took a lot of
that's
balls to
very
like,
interesting.
yeah.
That's like cancel culture now, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it is.
maybe
Yeah.
eventually, hopefully, if it's not checked.
Yeah, it's so, oh man, that's so frustrating, man, because it's like it's
It's human nature, man. You know, it's human nature, and I think religion, if I may go down that path just for a minute, whether it's religion or any kind of ideology, we have something deep down inside us that makes us want to be tribal. It makes us want to be, and I think it stems from our evolution as creatures who had to hang out with like creatures in order to survive. You know, that's why in nature you see every kind of animal hanging out with its own kind of animal. But as humans, that's kind of harder to differentiate, right? So we develop ideologies and ways of thinking, and then I look at you and I say, "Do you think like me? Then you're safe. Then we can hang out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't think like me, you might as well be a hyena and you're danger." And unfortunately, that's where racism stems, because the quickest way that we can differentiate is by skin color, right? You look and you immediately see whether or not this person looks like you. And
Mm-hmm.
most people being superficial, depends on the country, of course, most people, a lot of people being enough people being superficial, let's say that, will look and immediately say, "You're darker, you're not like me. You're lighter, you're not like me." So
Mm-hmm.
immediately there's this very biological survival instinct that kicks in and says, different, unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're overcoming, right? A lot of movements and a lot of people who are progressive are saying, "Well, you look different, but you're probably exactly like me." And because we like the same things, and that's where you break down culture into, like, you know, you have your ISCA convention where we go to our caricature convention, and there's people of, you know, dozens of different countries and backgrounds and color, and and you look and you say, "Wow, you don't look anything like me."
I
If
want to
I
cut
saw you
in
on the
for a
street, I would
second
never guess
because
that you're even an artist. But
I
you're
want to cut it.
amazing, and I love you. You're my hero.
All I heard is that I'm an artist and you love me and I'm your hero. So thank you. You're welcome. And the thing I wanted to say was I just on what you just like based on what you just said was like I was just thinking about that before I called you. In the back of the book, the drawing of Leo and all of the hands coming
Yeah.
in. And like, you know, you have like a
Hmm.
gnarly hand and like a chubby hand. And that was just one of my favorite caricatures ever, actually, because it's such a great story, you know?
That's Kiko.
Oh, Kiko did that?
Kiko, man, my
Oh,
little sis.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. That makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know, the book is full of, you know, the book wouldn't be what it is if it weren't for the 40 incredible artists that contributed work to it. And Kiko did that drawing of Leo because at the time Kiko lived with us for years. And if it weren't for COVID, she still would be. She's like our little travel buddy, companion, and incredible artist. Ninja Sketch, everyone check her out, Ninja Sketch on Instagram. And she was there to witness all those things, Leo being excessively touched and Natalia being a protective mother, and so she came up with that cool idea.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. Well, can we
Did I
step
lose you?
back? Go ahead, what?
Yeah, I thought I lost you, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I want to talk before I forget about is the style gap. You may have heard this talk. It's from it's like a 2-minute video from Ira Glass. You know Ira Glass? Yeah, he's a journalist,
Let's.
NPR journalist, kind of does a lot of stuff like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm sure I've seen his stuff.
Yeah, but anyway, he talks about the style gap where like as artists and creative people, we know what looks good. Like we intuitively know it, and that's what we're attracted to. But when we start off, we know what we want something to look like, but we can't get it, you
Yeah,
know, we can't make that happen. So there's this like period of time where we just have to work our ass off and like keep pushing and be persistent.
yeah.
And then eventually
I
we're
actually
able to
know
get that.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of what one point that I wanted to bring up because we talked a little about that a little bit earlier about style. Um, and then have you heard about this book Mastery? It's by
No.
George. I'll put a link below. But I've talked about it. I even made a video about
Oh,
it a few months ago. But
yeah.
they talk about like the dabbler, the hacker, the obsessor, and then the master. And the reason I think this book is so good is because they show, it's a short book, but they show this chart, and they describe these different types of people. Like the dabbler is someone, and I've been through these stages also, but like where I get excited about something, I get all the paraphernalia, I get started on it, and then I realize like after a couple weeks, I'm like, fuck, man, this is going to be a lot of work. I'm going to be working on this for a long time before I close that style gap. And then I give up on it, and then I get excited by something else. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And then there's the hacker who like figures something out right enough to where it will sell, or just enough to where they'll get like the recognition. So like in caricature, this would be the stamper, like the person who draws the same face over and over and over again. And they were saying like most
The
people,
hack.
the
Oh,
hack.
Sam. Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of angry emojis on that one. But keep going.
Good, that's perfect. Exactly what I need. I need to polarize the
A
audience.
little bit of controversy, yeah, definitely sells.
And then I forget exactly what the obsessor was. I think the obsessor was just like someone who was kind of obsessed about the topic but didn't really put the work in or something. But what they were talking about with the master is like 95.5% is like you're on a plateau. And only through like long persistent work, like you make a leap. And that leap happens when you're basically when like what you're learning mentally becomes intuitive. And then you make this jump and you see a visual like jump and progress in your work. But then, it might be another 5 or 10 years of you working and seemingly on a plateau until you make that next leap. And what they were saying was like, that's the road to mastery. What do you think about that?
Yeah. No, these are all great points. And first of all, I want to say that there's no such thing as somebody who perpetually persists in one category or another. Any master will, if they admit it, they'll tell you they've been the hacker, they've been the obsessor, they've been the whatever the first one was.
Dabbler. Yeah.
The dabbler. And it all depends, but what you're saying kind of falls in line with what I've told a lot of artists is, and this is across the board. That's the beautiful thing. All creativity, it's impossible to have an endless supply of inspiration and creativity that just carries you through and through and through. And every day you're just, every artist that I know, even the masters, like Hota Leal and Grigor Eftimov and these guys that are just like, how do you even think along those lines? And as long as most of us live, we'll never, really get there. There's creativity comes in waves, some people say there's a 2-year there's a pattern of like 2 years where it fluctuates. You get real creative, and then you need to recharge your batteries, and then you have a spurt of creativity, you recharge your batteries. I've experienced that myself personally. I've definitely plateaued many a times. There was an entire year where I regressed to just drawing very traditional, very much just going after likeness and very little exaggeration. And that was like 3 years ago. That was after I was doing the craziest stuff that I started getting known for. I regressed to just like having zero creativity. Here's the trick, and here's the key, and this is what separates people who eventually become known for mastering a subject and those who fall away as like, man, that guy had a lot of potential. You got to ride the wave. You work your ass off during the lows, and by that I mean you stick around, you keep persisting, you go back to the fundamentals, you hold on, all right? And even with little motivation, your drawings aren't making you happy, other factors aren't making you happy, you're not innovative, you're just holding on. But what's happening in the back of your mind is very different from what you're perceiving. You're grinding through and you're creating inroads in your mind. You're creating neurological pathways that you can tap into once you're peaking. And that's what allows you to be innovative when you're peaking in your creativity, is you have told your brain, fuck you. I'm holding on no matter how shitty you feel, no matter how uncreative you feel. I'm going to keep pushing through. I'm going to force feed you this insatiable appetite for art and creativity that I have in me. And for those who have the passion enough to just keep pushing through the lows, you reap during the highs. That's the gist of it.
This is brings up this quote, motivation is manufactured. That's kind of one of my mantras. I actually had another question for you because we talked about like people kind of getting off track and not staying specifically on one thing. The last guy I interviewed, he lives here in Prague. He's an incredible oil painter, and he's also an incredible drummer. So I'm just wondering, and you know, we both know Jota Leal is, or am I pronouncing that right? Leal?
Jota Leal.
Jota Leal. So
there's a ho in there.
ho ho ho
Love you,
ho.
Jota.
Anyway,
Jota.
he's a dancer, yeah.
Jota Leal.
He's like dancing and like, you know, so this movement is like really important to his work. Like you can see how that affects his work. And then my friend Lukos, the guy who's the painter and drummer, when you look at like he paints these like impossible objects and he like merges architecture and other things in there and he paints like impossible shapes and stuff. And and you can see that rhythm, like you can see his like drum rhythm in the painting, you know, like you can almost hear it. And with Jota, like you can see that in his paintings too. That's like dancing, you know, like the painting is like a dance, you know. So I'm wondering if there's
He's an
anything.
artist through and through. I always tell him.
What about you? Like, what is there something outside of caricature that you think plays into your work? Like, I ask you this, and here's why. Because I've brought you up in like 2 or 3 interviews because we're like when we talk about personality and like how that affects your work. You know, the longer I know caricature artists and the or any artist and get to know them, the more I realize like, oh, that's why they draw like that. And like when I met you and heard that you like to do like cliff jumping and like jump off bridges and like real extreme activity, I'm like, no wonder he likes to like take so many chances with his drawings too, you know?
No, that's a great question, actually, and I do address this in the Ultimate Guide as well. There's a little paragraph in there that talks about cliff jumping. Yeah, certainly, your lifestyle, your ideologies, your approach to dealing with other aspects of life are going to seep into your art. And so for me, I took a big leap leaving LA, leaving my previous marriage, leaving my career. It was a huge leap. And at the time, before all that happened, I kind of felt like a leap might be coming. Like something told me, you have to prepare yourself for the unknown. And I started taking up cliff jumping. First of all, I'm like a lot of people, you watch YouTube videos and you're like, that looks awesome. I'm gonna try that. But you don't realize that that person has been practicing that one thing for like 10 years, and you're trying to do what they're doing 10 years into it now with zero practice, right? That's like a pitfall of YouTube culture, and that's how a lot of people get hurt. I actually gave myself a permanent back injury trying to be one of those stilt jumpers. You know those jumping stilts where the people have the kangaroo legs and they could just like do all kinds of flips and jumps.
Yeah.
So when I was like 27, 26, 27, I bought jumping stilts, and I'm a guy who's never been good at anything physical ever. Like I did karate and I lost every match. I could do fancy jumping, spinning, kicks and stuff, but I physically I've never really had the physical intelligence that a lot of people who are good with their bodies have. You know, like balance. I can dance, but like I never had the physical dexterity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
like hand-eye coordination and being able to like skateboard or do cool stuff like that I can never freaking do for my life. But I got these jumping stilts and I practiced, and one day I was trying to run and do like a double kangaroo hop,
Uh-huh.
and I ran full speed. I mean, you can get 20, 25 miles an hour on these things, I think.
Whoa.
From what I heard back then, you can get really fast because they're like these springy kangaroo legs. So I started running as fast as my legs could carry me, and I jumped, double hopped, and I landed, and I didn't go anywhere. I landed and my knees buckled backwards because
Oh,
I'm double jointed. My knees
oh,
snapped backwards, and my lower spine absorbed the entirety of the springs. So I
oh,
didn't lift off the ground at all. What I
oh,
did was I compressed my lower disc in two discs. I gave myself a double herniated disc.
oh shit.
Yeah. So it's an injury that's still with me. I'm in pain nonstop for ever since, like literally nonstop. It reminds me I'm alive, but I've learned to ignore it. So um, back to why did I start that story? Remind me.
Oh man, I don't know, but I'm like living it through you, man, like
Yeah, it was awful.
vicariously.
It was a terrible injury. So I was never good at it, and I remember why I started that story.
Yeah, yeah.
So so I decided to take up cliff jumping because it was exciting, and I saw the videos, and I would watch these guys doing these
But
gainers and
no
backflips.
no transition. Like you're like, yeah, I crushed two vertebrae in my low back and I it reminds me I'm alive. And then I decided to do cliff jumping.
Right.
Yeah.
So I started looking for spots around Los Angeles that were known for cliff jumping, and we went to this place called like the Malibu Pits or something like that. And it's the most awful, dangerous place you could do cliff jumping. The water is stagnant, so it's not clear. It's probably full of horrible living things that you don't want going up your pee hole. But I get there,
I don't want
and
anything
my
going
ex-wife
up
is
my
there,
pee
super
hole.
supportive. Yeah, yeah, super supportive. I get up to a jump like a 20-footer, and I do a backflip, and I'm super stoked and excited, and she's cheering for me, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take that big 45 foot jump. And my knees were shaking, and it was a jump where you had to jump out at least 10 feet to clear the rocks below,
Ooh.
and knees buckling, and I was super nervous. I didn't know what's coming because the water, you can't see through it. There's rocks everywhere, and it was very metaphorical for my life at the time. I didn't know what was coming. My career was in the works of possibly moving. My marriage wasn't looking so hot. Everything would seem like it might come to an end. So I think I was craving the leap into the unknown. So I stood up above these rocks, and my knees were shaking, and I couldn't get myself to actually leap off. I learned I can't jump for shit. Like I can't jump forward at all. So I jumped, and I still remember I'm looking down, and I'm like 45 feet right towards a giant boulder. And I got so close to this boulder that I actually hit it with my hand, and I tried to deflect it as I landed in this water, and I hit my left butt cheek, my left ass bone. I hit on a boulder like 4 feet underwater.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was hairy as hell. If I had a GoPro, man, that would have been viral. Yeah, I jumped. I saw the boulder coming. I like deflected one giant boulder with my right hand, and I hit my ass on another one right underwater. And I was like, "Oh my god, I almost died."
Holy shit. So were you injured from getting hitting your ass?
Fortunately, I think so. It probably wasn't a good look for my double herniated disc, but my first thought, my first thought doing that. And by the way, my ex-wife was filming, so I still have the footage of that. I'll have to pull it up one day
Oh, dude, let's put
if I
that
can
in the
find it.
interview, please. Can we put that in? Let's find that.
Uh, You know what? I will do my best and try to locate that for you. Um, the first thought coming out of that jump where I almost died was I got to try that again.
And this on
And
the
this
same
time,
one.
this same jump, and this time I gotta avoid the rocks. And I climbed back up, and my ex was like, "Are you sure? Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got to do it again. I got to do better. I can't transition my life into leaping into the unknown and end it on a on an injury, because
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a good. It was strangely metaphorical to me.
Yeah.
So I did it again, and I cleared the rocks much better. I didn't hit my ass on a boulder, but I did land sideways, and I like popped my left ear. But that was enough. I was like, I'm good. It's This will heal,
You
and
popped your
that's what transitioned me into the life that I have now. After that, shortly after that, I left LA. I left my career. I left my marriage. We split amicably, like I said, but
and
I
that was
left everything: my
2000
family, friends, the religion, everything.
that
I
was like
started completely fresh.
2012.
That was 2013. January 2013 is when I left LA for good.
Whoa, that's trippy, man, because that's actually when I came to Prague too. So we were kind of
Wow.
synced up in our major life changes there in 2013.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Although I
That
didn't
was.
do anything cool like jump off a cliff. I just flew to Prague.
I jumped off a few cliffs actually. Funny, to the encouragement of Natalia. We'd see a huge bridge, and I'd be like, "Hey, babe, you think I should jump off that?" Thinking in the back of my mind, like, "Say no. This is obviously dangerous." And she'd be like, "That would be pretty cool."
Yeah.
So I'm like, God, now I got to do it.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty awesome. That's a great story, man.
I have a lot of those cliff jumping videos I'll send you.
We should definitely put one of them in there, just a compilation of you like injuring yourself. You don't have any,
Actually, when
do you have
when
videos
I
of the
met
kangaroo
Natalia,
thing?
no, I don't have that.
Ah,
But I
okay.
know I do actually. I do have some cell phone footage of me on a jumping stilts. Yeah, I will dig that up, man.
This
That's
will
old
be
stuff.
this will be
That's
interesting.
like before cell phones had good cameras.
Ah, okay. Cool.
But
Um,
I did meet on the last note on that. When I met Natalia, I impressed her by doing a backflip off a bridge in downtown West Palm Beach, Florida at night. It was a drawbridge. This thing was massive. It was at least 30 feet off the ground at night. And I asked Natalia if she would be impressed if I jumped off the bridge, and she was like, "Yeah, that would be crazy." And Paula Vinizet was there
oh
to film
really?
it, and I still have the footage because I took my shirt off, and these dudes were fishing off the pier, and they looked at me and they're like, "All right, we're getting the fuck out of here." They like took the reel and they left because they thought I was committing suicide. So I did this jumping, spinning, like I did a backflip, and Paul filmed me, and he was like, "Fuck, this dude's freaking nuts." I'll dig that up, man. It's such a good video.
What is that on
And
YouTube?
you know what it is? Yeah, it is. I'll actually I think it was blocked from YouTube because I kept using copywritten music to make these highlight reels. But yeah,
Oh,
I'll dig
okay.
that up. And that really impressed Natalia, and now she's mine.
Dang, so that's all you have to
Oh,
do, right? All right, you hear that,
hey.
kids? Just jump off a bridge and your girlfriend will be impressed.
Very romantic. I almost died, and I cut my hand so bad I still have a scar trying to climb out. But Natalia lifted me up out of the water like a fish, and that
Yeah.
impressed me. I'm like, strong Russian girl? Hell yeah,
Yes.
she's hot.
Big big Russian woman is gonna save me. All right, okay, we have like some questions actually. So, question number one, it's rapid fire time. Stand up or skit comedy? That's the first
Stand up.
question. Stand up. Last meal. You're on death row. What's your last meal?
Oh, what's my last meal?
Not the last thing you ate right
You know,
now, but the last. Yeah.
it's got to be something simple that my mom cooked when I was growing up that I absolutely loved. It's literally chicken soup with cilantro. It's rice, chicken, potatoes, cilantro. You put a ton of cilantro, and as a kid growing up, that was just this like most nostalgic flavor. I would just do that. That'll
Like,
bring back my entire childhood.
wow. Okay, cool. What book are you reading or what show are you watching?
Oh man, I just finished Utopia. That was pretty good. Queen's Gambit, incredible. I'm currently reading and studying producing animation, recommended by Casey Mosman, Casey Bug. Uh, Always got the Silver Way here as a guide because I'm working on an animated pitch. I'm working on a pitch for an animated series.
Awesome.
So I'm studying that, how to produce animation and how to be a showrunner and all that good stuff. So that's what I'm currently reading.
Cool.
Amongst other things, by the way, I do audiobooks. So I actually just finished illustrating a book for a good friend called Dearest Ivory. That was an excellent read, absolutely fantastic. And the reason I decided to do the illustrations, that's an incredible book. And on audiobook, driving, I'm listening to something that I think every American should listen to. It's called The People's History of the United States.
That is the 8th time I've heard someone recommend that, and I've been meaning to get that.
And it'll send shivers down your spine. You will not be a proud. Well, things I guess will be like excused as inevitable for building this country, but to say that this country was built on the tombs of those who preceded it, or who were here first, or just built on blood, man, is an understatement.
Okay, and
one.
what artist what artist do the listeners need to look at right now?
Right now, top of my list, check out Kiko Ninja Sketch. She's definitely on the forefront of pushing creative caricature, cartooning, exaggeration. She's phenomenal. My little sister. I taught her everything she knows. Of course, that's why I'm. I'm just
So
kidding.
favorite color or
Yeah.
color combination?
Oh man, there's so many phenomenal artists out there. My personal grades, as far as like the type of creativity that I'm drawn to, is Nate Kapnicki, of course. He's always fantastic. Grigor Eftimov, of course. Hota Leal, uh, my friends and heroes. But so many, just about every artist in the
Well,
Ultimate Guide is incredible.
the question
But
the question was
yeah.
your favorite color or color combo.
What's my favorite color combo? Red and
Yeah.
black, baby. Red
Yeah,
and
okay.
black.
Okay. Favorite new band or musician?
Oh man, I just recently got into so many. I rediscovered Nick Cave recently, and I'm just loving his work with PJ Harvey. Um, but that's like the darker stuff. Absolute favorite, hands down. I don't care what you say, who you are. Maynard James Keenan. Anything he does, touches, whatever, I absolutely love. And Pussifer is actually my favorite band as of now.
Cool. And what is the worst trouble you've ever been in?
That's a great question. The worst trouble I've ever been in was I was arrested for smoking weed on my middle school graduation trip to Magic Mountain.
That sounds
Yeah,
like
I had a
something
really
you would
bad
put
friend
on a
back then.
t-shirt.
Yeah, I had a bad friend back then. He brought weed on our senior trip, middle school. I'd never smoked before, and he was like, Manny, you want to smoke weed? And he pulled out a pipe, and I was like, sure, why not? You're a kid. And we each took a hit. I felt nothing, and there was cops who had just caught another guy who was, I don't know what the hell he was doing, shooting heroin or something in the bushes at Magic Mountain, and they just saw us. Like, we were so dumb as kids, we didn't look around or anything. They were like, you two, come with us. So we spent the rest of the field trip in Magic Mountain after having only gone on one ride. We spent the rest of it following the teachers around as the
Oh,
two dudes got in trouble until our parents picked us up.
okay. I'm wondering, that
So far.
question, the answers on that one have been pretty light so far. I'm wondering when someone's gonna say something shocking. Okay, if you had $1 billion, what would you do with it?
I would work to make artists as immediately relevant as pop stars in a sense. Um, make it so that the term starving artist is a thing of the past. Where I always had this strange idea in my head when I started doing caricatures again. I would fantasize, like I do a lot, about people having trading cards for their favorite caricature artists. Like,
Ah,
why not?
that's a great
You
idea.
know, on one side you got their stupid face, and then on the other side you have their work, and people collect these, and they become legendary, and they're short. I mean, they're not mass produced, so they're limited, and because what we do is every bit as creative to me as stand-up comedy, as making a song. To me, I see a lot of parallels between a lot of, say, rap songs and caricature. There's satire, there's creativity, you're trying to do a play on words. You could look at a brilliant caricature and spot every bit of those nuances that are captured by brilliant artists same way. So
Mhm.
I think artists deserve every bit of clout and notoriety as do a lot of what's mainstream out there. Not that artists want to be mainstream, but we having a little taste of like being sought after, where people are coming to the fair looking for you. They only come to the fair just to get a drawing from you. Was like, hey, this needs to be broadened to where everybody seeks out artists to get a caricature, and they want it exaggerated and they want it done right. And that's a thing. And
Yeah.
that's what sparked my desire to create the app, the Drawsome app that I've been
I
developing for two
I want
years.
to ask you about that, but let's get through the rest of the questions real quick, and we'll talk about
Damn
that.
it, Sam.
Uh, you were trapped on an island. What book would you bring? That's the question. If you're
No, it's
trapped
a
on an
it's a great
island,
question, and this might sound like a strange answer. I would just take the Bible, man. You know, I would take the Bible, not because of religion, because I'm over it. I'm way over the religion. Not because you don't even have to believe in God. Um, the Bible reveals everything from our core internal psychology. There's myths in there that are derived from generations of striving for something. You can read the Bible 100 times over and over again, and depending on where you are in your state, see it completely differently. And
hmm,
it's a book that would just keep on giving, so I would take a Bible.
cool. And one, I don't like this last question. Maybe I'll change it, but I'll ask you while I have it here. One nugget of wisdom for the youth today. Maybe it's the way I wrote it. Sounds like an old guy asking for young people today, young artists.
Jeez, words of wisdom. Yeah, definitely. First off, change that question. Nuggets are archaic language. I would say, as hard as this might seem, I wish somebody told me when I was young, is that most things that happen in your life before 30 don't really matter. Friends you have in high school aren't necessarily going to matter. They shape you, right? But they're not going to necessarily persist. I mean, coming out of high school, I had one best friend that stayed with me, and he had different life circumstances lead him to isolate himself from everybody, friends and family. So I lost him too in that way. And you get an opportunity to recreate yourself as an adult. And so nothing that comes before that point, nothing matters. The family you come from, the circumstances, your lot in life, there's a certain point where you get an opportunity to recreate yourself, and anything you do after that is all on you. And that's what
Yeah.
I would tell the youth today. Don't try to
Yeah.
impress your friends, as hard as that is. Um, after some time, they're not going to matter for shit.
Yeah, it's interesting what happens, when you get into your 30s or you're like approaching 40 and you have some time to look back on, you're like, man, you can really see how like your mind changes through those decades. And also, your brain, I think the new science now is like your brain's not completely done forming until you're 26 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But so let's talk about
I would
Drawsome.
say I would say it potentially never stops. As
Yeah.
long as you keep, people are doing, scientists are making great strides in neuroplasticity. I found personally in myself that I think better, more clearly, more articulate, just more um, adept at processing thought than I've ever been, and I'm 38. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying there was definitely big chunks of my life where I thought I was retarded, and not to say that in a bad way. The word retarded is actually a word in the dictionary.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
means you're hindered or held back, right?
Yeah.
I felt like there was a mental block that was I couldn't think of words as I was trying to communicate. Words weren't coming to me easily or readily. I found myself lost in thought, not able to like have decent conversations a lot in my life. And I think it would help me is living authentically, like leaving LA and just thrusting myself into the unknown and having to figure it out and process a lot of solutions to problems that were incessant. I mean, when you're living on a road, there's never a dull moment, literally. And some people know that by just following our Facebook stories. But
Yeah.
you're constantly problem solving, and then I've done a lot of personal growth, a lot of plant medicines that I always encourage, and I think a lot of that has led to you know what I am today. But yeah, I don't think you ever stop. Eventually, you might plateau and start declining, but I know people in their 70s and 80s that can outthink me, outsmart me, and most people I know. So.
Hmm. Um, so let's talk about the Drawsome app.
Woohoo!
Take it
All
away, man.
right. Now the real reason we're all here. I'm just kidding. Yeah, what do you want to know?
Everything, man. I mean, it's like I saw that you sponsored something on the con, and then I saw that you put something out. I went to the page. It was just like sign up. So I'm like, all right, I'll sign up.
Oh, cool.
Um,
Well, thank you.
yeah, yeah. But all I know is that it's some social networking for artists, but you'll have to fill in the blanks.
All right, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. I've been pretty secretive about this. Just when you're uh, starting something, and any fledgling operation needs to have a level of secrecy for its own, uh, for as a precaution. But we're almost at the point of launch. We probably will be launching. I was hoping by Christmas, but that's unrealistic. I think by 2021 we'll launch. And it started 2 years
How
ago.
long?
I was thinking of a way to um, problem solve within our industry as artists, not just caricature artists, but artists in general. And I think more than an artist, I'm a problem solver. I try to look at things around me and figure out ways to improve them. And to me, that's what caricature has been. A big way of like, how do I solve this problem? How do I solve this face using this level of exaggeration? It's just constant like problem solving for me, and it's something that I really enjoy. I love chess for the same reason. You're looking at a position and you're thinking, what's the solution to this problem? And it's not always something that you readily see, right? It's something you have to think a few steps ahead. So I started brainstorming in my mind right after. So I won the Golden Nosey, which was huge and a huge honor. And shortly thereafter, I think actually on that night, if I'm not mistaken, did I? No, it was the following year. I released the Ultimate Guide. So everything snowballed. The Golden Nosey enabled me to create the ultimate guide because it kind of gave me some clout, and people would buy a book more readily from somebody with that award than not. And that allowed me to make the ultimate guide with 40 artists that I had to coordinate and all that. And so that encouraged me to say, well, what else can I do if I utilize delegation and I try to outsource the work, most of the work, and I just come up with the idea. And I started thinking about how to improve our industry. And initially, the idea was, and part of it still is, that we would set up these like picture booths, like photo booths, where somebody would sit and get a live caricature live from an artist anywhere in the world. And it sparked from there into, well, now you need a proprietary booth. You have to, it'll probably cost 4, 5, 6 grand to make each booth, unless you do a very cheap system with just an iPad. Then you have a situation where somebody has to watch it constantly because that could be easily stolen. So eventually, and Natalia gave me a lot of great suggestions too, eventually evolved into an app where anybody anywhere in the world can commission any artist that's ready to go anywhere in the world and do a drawing on the spot, and send them not only the digital copy where they can share it and say, hey, look at this cool caricature I got, but also allow them to click one button and say, I want this on a t-shirt, I want this as a poster, I want this on a mug, I want this as a sticker. And without the artist doing extra work, that order gets printed and drop shipped from a provider right to their door anywhere in the world. And that's the vision that we've managed to bring to life. It actually works. I have a working demo version right now.
Awesome.
On my phone.
Man, that's what a great idea.
Thanks. It's right there.
Yeah, I see it kind of. It's a little blown out, but yeah. Hold it back from the camera a little bit. Okay, well, yeah. We'll put a link to it, or we'll put something
There it
where people
is.
can sign up. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
You can probably see it.
Oh,
There's
there's
the
your
app,
demo version. Yeah.
and
Awesome,
that's the
dude.
demo version.
Awesome.
And say you click on one of the posts, and suddenly you have the print, you have the mug,
Nice.
and you could just hit buy. And I'm trying to make it so that it takes out all the hard labor out. It's very easy for an artist to post a piece of art and turn that into one of 6, actually it's one of 8 products that we have for sale.
Mhm.
And that will expand eventually to other products, but we're going to start with 8. And it allows you to take commissions and set your own price, do the products. And what I managed to do by directly partnering up with one of the biggest global providers is undercut all of the major providers that are out there right now. Redbubble, for instance, our starting prices are less than half of their starting prices. So it allows a much greater margin for the artist to make a huge cut. Because say Redbubble, you have a print that starts at $18, I think. Their smallest print starts at 18. Artist wants to make $10. Now you're at $28 for a small print. How many people are going to do that?
Yeah.
Whereas, say on Drawsome, our smallest prints start at, I want to say, $7. And so if an artist wants to make 10, you're at 17. You're making $10 on something that starts at $17, much more viable product that somebody's going to buy than at 28. So we want to do that across the board.
I do have a question about that. Like, what are your guidelines for artists? Like, are you gonna kind of like gatekeep and like pick and choose who you let in, or how are you going about that?
So So the app is built on having a rating system. So every artist, based on the followers you have, based on other artists with high, it's called a reputation score. I was trying to mimic the real life, the real world as much as possible. So every artist gets a reputation score, just like in a real world, we have a reputation. It's based on how much other artists admire our work, other artists with high reputations like our stuff. That means, you're doing pretty all right. If masters think you're pretty all right, that means you're on a good track, right? Um, if you get good customer reviews, if you're productive, if you're prolific, you're making a lot of work, you get a high reputation as well. So we're going to allow the free market to kind of dictate that. Of course, we're going to have in there the disclaimer that, you should not have work that you don't have the copyright for. So obviously there's going to be a little bit of filtering in that regard. You're going to be able to, just like any other social media platform, report artwork that is, say, not the artist or in bad taste. By bad taste, I mean like, encouraging violence or just straight up inappropriate. I don't mean
So
when
Chris
somebody
Chua.
posts a nude drawing, they get banned. I mean like legitimately bad. For encourage, like I said, probably encouraging violence and sexually inappropriate would be encouraging any kind of bad behavior. So yeah, to answer that question, did you have another one? Or
Actually,
I talk a lot. I know.
I do. Yeah. I do have another question. What was my other question? So you're not going to launch this year. It'll be next year.
It's looking that way. I was hoping to launch this year, but my final demands to the developers have pushed out the development time. So at least it'll be launched a little later, but it'll have a lot better features for the artists and for the customer. So you go to the app, you're able to sign on as either a user or an artist. And commission. Artists get to post art and do everything else. This way we avoid people who are just posting bullshit like pictures of their food. It's going to be strictly for art and artwork across the board, not just caricature, any kind of artwork. And we also have a cool feature to help promote the app and make it cool. Is unique to Drawsome is going to be art contests. So the app itself is going to have like a bi-weekly drawing contest.
Cool.
For whatever theme is set for that week. Let's say it's Black Lives Matter theme, or it could be like, women's rights theme, or it could be, the best caricature of Donald Trump. And the winners are going to be voted on by the other users based on likes. And this will be a way to like bring in more users. You can submit a piece of artwork and tell your friends and family, hey, can you download this app and go vote for me? For instance, if you think my work's good, please support me. And then the winners will start to get prizes like, everything from art supplies to eventually through sponsorships. We're hoping to give away some cool electronics like, maybe eventually iPads or Wacom pads or whatever.
So what about getting onto the app? Is it going to be a paid app, or is it you're just taking a percentage of what's being sold, the products that are being sold?
You ready? Drum roll. It's going to be absolutely free. Of course, I'm an artist, and I designed the app based on what I would like it to be. The artist is going to be free for users. Drawsome will take a very small percentage from every transaction, and that's how it'll keep growing and offering better features and better opportunities for artists.
So what should people do now? Should they just go to the page and sign up for it, or get on the mailing list?
Yeah, right now, go to this link below. Sam, that's your job. You're going to put it right here.
Yeah.
Go to this link below, and www.drawsome.com, and please sign up. It's a simple sign up form. Just put in your email and info. And as soon as it's launched, you'll get an email inviting you to come and do some demo testing. And initially, we're going to do demo testing for everybody who signed up, and those who sign up to do the demo testing will become the base of the users that we do the official launch with.
Okay, cool. Cool. Well, I'll keep an eye out for that email.
And yeah, just a little plug too. Like right now, I'm noticing that Instagram is doing everything it can to transition into like a TikTok competitor. Maybe they foresee that TikTok might get canceled in the States, as was threatened by Trump, and they're trying to fill that void. And you go to Instagram now, you try to post and the buttons disappear. They move the button. They're trying to focus more on video. And I've always felt like Instagram, while being great for exposure, somebody recently said, Jan Optebeek actually made this funny post, and it made me think of Drawsome. He said, I have a dog. I feed this dog. This dog doesn't make me any money, but I get to show off my work. And he's referring to Instagram. It's like, I know artists who have 500,000 followers, 1 million followers, and they're not really monetizing. They're not making money from it. And Instagram isn't strictly geared towards artists and artwork, right? You can now have a store on there, but you have to have your own website and all this stuff. So, I would encourage anyone to at least try Drawsome. You get to post the same exact way as you do on Instagram, but you can convert that post into products for sale, and then you just sit back and you make whatever cut that you input that you want to make from every piece.
So these are all digital, or if someone does traditional, can they scan it in and use it like that?
Oh,
or
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, obviously it's going to be easier to work digitally, and you're going to be able to upload like time lapses of your work. Most artists use Procreate, and you can upload a time lapse right into the app too, which is cool. You can do a 1 minute video, 1 minute, and those who wish to work traditionally, absolutely. Yeah, you just got to do a good scan.
So let's get get some questions in here. Let's
Woohoo!
see. Well, that's an awesome idea, man. That's a Drawsome idea. That's
I won't rest until Drawsome is a regular part of our vocabulary.
the Webster dictionary is gonna take it in. Oh, wait a minute. There's some good ones in here. Okay.
Right,
There we go.
after the stunt I pulled, are you screening your questions now?
No, actually, no, not at all.
Poor Alanie.
That's what we need, man. We need the drama. That's what people
Yeah.
like. Okay. How do you find time balancing between work goals like setting up festivals, upkeeping schedules, maintaining sales averages, and still finding being able to push yourself artistically? Do you feel well, I'll let you answer that first because he's got other questions. And by the way, AJ, just record yourself saying this and mail it to me, like the directions in the post. All right.
Yeah. Well, first of all, AJ, we should make out at some point in the near future. But to answer that question, I kind of cheat in that I just surround myself with incredible artists that are going to keep pushing me. So while running our route, we've invited artists like Kirby, and Ben Bloss works with us, and Carlos Funmeyer, and Kelly O'Brien, and Kiko, of course, and Chris Chua. We had a lot of fantastic artists that I'm probably missing. If I'm missing you, I'm sorry, but a lot, Celeste, so many fantastic artists that we've had come on board, and they're the ones that kind of push me to keep striving because, I fortunately and unfortunately I have a little bit of a reputation. So when I'm out there, the days that I usually work now were reduced down to the weekends to let the artists make as much as they could. And whenever I get out there, of course, now I'm under pressure to perform myself because I'm drawing next to these incredible world-class artists, and I got to keep it creative. So, I get out there like nice and rested after doing administrative stuff or other projects, and the artists have been out there grinding all day, and I get out there fresh and, ready to go, and it's easy for me to get creative because I'm not tapped out, and I cheat a little bit that way, but that's what keeps me really creative and pushing, or just incredible fellow artists. Does that answer your question, AJ? Can we make out now?
No, he's got one more before. Do you feel
Yeah.
each responsibility changes during each event, or you have to put one responsibility over the other? Oh, I guess
Yeah,
he's
it all depends
referring
on who's
back. Yeah.
there. Yeah, it depends on who's there, who's holding it down. You know, if Natalia's there or not. If I'm by myself, obviously the responsibilities slip heavily when Natalia's not there to make sure I'm on up and up. So no, we split the work. You know, Natalia does a big chunk of it. She finds the fares, I apply to them, and we try to keep that up. She reminds me to make sure that we're all current on that. And then besides that, I just focus on my passions. You know, I steal time away from my sleep. I go to bed at 3 a.m. almost every night because I spend like midnight to 3 just working on my personal projects and other stuff like that. And that's how I try to balance it.
How many hours do you sleep a night? That's my question.
I mean, I'm good with 6 hours. Most of the time I get my 8 and I'm fine. I just sleep in till like, 11, 12. And that's totally fine. Like I did this morning and I almost missed this interview. I was up until 3. But yeah, I'm a night owl. I'm more creative at night when everybody else has gone to bed.
Okay. And let's see, how much and mainly what kind of formal education in the art field have you had in years prior? We kind of answered that, but I guess if you want to give a overview of that, you can.
High school art. I was in AP art, which is like the highest level art that they offered. It was all right. I still remember the teacher, Mr. Ferguson, Furman, Mr. Furman, North Hollywood High School. Jesus. And I remember just being a class clown, so I didn't learn much, and I was one of the better artists in class. And I still remember something that a girl said to me way back then. There was this really cool classmate I had, this black girl, and we were taking turns drawing each other live, like clothes on, of course. Kids would jump up on the tables, and everybody else would draw them. And I was drawing one of the kids, and this girl came up and she said, "You know, it's funny. We all see the same thing, but you see so much more." And I was like, huh, I never really thought about that. That always stuck with me. But yeah, I started then sneaking in with my friend who was attending Northridge University, CSUN, Cal State University Northridge. He was an art student there, a little older than me. He was actually the lead singer of the band I was in. And he was taking figure drawing, and he invited me to start sneaking into class. So from I think 10th grade of high school, I attended almost a full semester of college figure drawing before the
Whoa,
teacher figured out that I didn't belong in that class.
nice.
Yeah, he never took roll call until 2 weeks before class is over. And he was like, he takes roll call. I got a little nervous and tried to hide. And he was like, "You're not in this class, are you?" I'm like, "No." He kicked me out
Oh, okay.
after almost a full semester.
I would have let you stay.
I know, but he said something about it being disrespectful to the model, which I didn't get. I'm like, whatever, dude.
That's so weird.
But yeah, that and then I went to the Art Institute. I was taught by some great phenomenal artists like Marjan Hermosi, who was taught by the great um man, what was his name? Great artist. Sounds like the psychiatrist.
Freud?
Anyway,
Okay.
Marjan Hermosi. She was fantastic. She taught at Otis and she taught at the Art Institute. So yeah, that's about all the training I've done. But then after college, for years and years and years, I did figure drawing workshops. Los Angeles has a ton of them. They're put on by industry experts. So you'll go to a workshop at the Art Directors Guild in Studio City, and it'll be a room full of artists who work on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. I drew with those guys, artists who work on work at Disney and Warner Brothers. It's a place where every week they would put on figure drawing workshops for $15. You got unlimited wine, cookies, and naked people to draw. So
Nice,
I did
nice.
that for 10 years.
Nice.
All right, what am I supposed to do with Lars' images?
He's got a question actually, so I'll play that
Okay.
first. Here's his question. Let me know if you can hear it.
Yeah.
Ready?
Okay, Manny, my crazy friend. Hey, listen. I've always looked at the way you do your caricatures and how you intertwine all the different features. And I've actually have a question about that. You know, like basically, do you know masters or that have done this type of work where they intertwine kind of like a wild style caricature type of form? You know, I look at the way some of you guys are doing these caricatures and you're flipping the features around and like under looping it and putting it underneath something else and having it go. It kind of, to me, it reminds me of the like you probably know about graffiti, but back in the day, you know, I did a lot of, I still do sometimes. I get freelance work, but you do like a wild style lettering, and that's kind of how I see your caricatures. Some of you guys caricature work, how you loop things and have it go in and out and all this different stuff, man. It's like, what is your influences for that? How did you start seeing those shapes and start doing that type of work? And you know, is there any other references to other artists that you could recommend? And how do you basically do that? So,
How do you basically do that?
yeah, that's it.
All right.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Let me start from the beginning. Okay, I can, for some reason I can hear myself now in your, okay.
I had the volume up. Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, Lars, you know, that's a great painting, man. As a caricature, I mean, I can talk to you personally about, like, you know, critiques and stuff, but you know, overall, you got great chops, and you know, obviously you could draw. But as far as caricature theory, um, so to me, there's this concept of creativity, right? And by definition, creative means to create something new, something that isn't already there, right? So by that definition, if we're copying, we're not being creative. If you're taking something that already exists and you're just recreating an image of that, and some artists might disagree with me or want to slap me right now, you're being creative, but you're not creating. Okay, to create is to make something that didn't exist before you made it, and you do that by reinterpreting what it is that you see through your own filters and out in a new way. And you do that by literally taking yourself out of that mentality and that mindset of this is how I draw to I want to make something new. I want to make something that doesn't exist. And to answer your question, let's say the way that I've done that in the past, and on my extreme caricature workshop, I went over this, is you take your reference and you put up a couple of styles that you want to emulate that are out there. And they don't have to be caricatures. They could be abstract pieces of art that you see a face in, that inspire you. Matt Garcia is a master at this. He always posts references that he uses to make a face, and it's like the tile on his bathroom floor or some kind of floral pattern or something strange, right? But something that inspires or sparks an idea shape wise. And you say, I'm going to make this face, but I'm going to conform it to this shape. And you force your brain to solve the problem of how you're going to mesh the two. Okay. And when you force your brain to solve the problem, whether you succeed or fail, you have created new inroads. You force yourself to think outside the box. And then you just do that again and you keep repeating. You say, I'm going to, and I would do this early on, coming back to caricature in 2012, 2013. I would have my cell phone out and I would have references of my favorite cartoon, Ren and Stimpy. and I would see a face and say, I can pull off this Stimpy face on that guy. And when they would sit down, I would literally try to problem solve and draw that guy the same way Stimpy's character is drawn here. Of course, it's not going to be a drawing of Stimpy. It's going to be some weird hybrid. And everyone who sees it is going to say, wow, that's new. There's nothing new. I've just meshed this guy's features with this existing character, right? But that's how you force yourself out into a new way of problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally punching your brain in the face and saying, you're going to draw this person, this subject, like this, or you failed. And you kind of force yourself to do that. Now, as far as the meshing and the intertwining of the forms, that came from my background, man, and everybody's different. You know, I can't promise or say that everybody can do that because, you know, I don't think that's possible. And I can't do things that other people can do based on their experience. But years of
What
figure
part of it?
drawing, for
Okay.
me, the female figure is the best because the forms in a figure of the female fit together so beautifully and blend and mesh. And you have the hips that go into the side of the you know, the torso area, and then they like curve in the back, they curve into the spine, and then they go up the lats and into the shoulders and arms, and everything is that to me already on a female form, which is why it's so beautiful. I try to emulate that in my caricatures. I did years of sculpture. I actually wanted to become a sculptor. I
Me too. Yeah.
did sculptures with my grandparents, and they were pretty decent. And that was going to be a pursuit until I hit the road, and clay is way too heavy for an RV, so I quit.
Yeah.
But background in 3D, I taught myself Maya. I learned 3D Max in college, and just having that background in three-dimensional space really helped. You can play around with 3D software out there like Mudbox is really easy, Blender, but I recommend Mudbox. I think you get a student version for free by Autodesk Mudbox. It's really easy to like push and pull shapes together. It comes preloaded with anatomical figures that you can play around with, and just kind of practice getting a sense of what happens when you take a nose from here to out here, and what happens to the rest of the face, you know? That just comes from tons of practice and my own taste. That's something that, Sam, if I can tell any artist, what you have that's unique to you is your own taste. And unfortunately, there are artists that I've met that have bad taste, and there are artists that I met that have excellent taste. And like you said, it's the if you can merge your skills with your taste, now you're really onto something. But some artists have bad taste. They see a piece of work or they see something and they're not drawn to the things that make that really cool. They're drawn to things that look a lot more, you know, like different, you know, or basic. And so their taste, if you don't have a taste for extreme exaggerated stuff, you're just not gonna push yourself to get there. For instance, that's another thing. So develop a taste and you do that. Easiest recommendation I have is every night before going to bed, and I did this for years, go through your Instagram and all your favorite art pieces. Doesn't have to be caricature, it could be anything that inspires you, and meditate on those pieces of art when you go to bed briefly. Don't spend hours doing it, just like 5-10 minutes. And then when you wake up, pick up your phone and go through them again. And I know this is a bad habit, and I wouldn't usually recommend jumping on your phone before and after, you know, you wake and go to sleep. But if just for a short period of time, let's say it's 2 months, 3 months, you set a goal to change yourself artistically, you do this for that short duration, and then you try to break the habit, of course, and get back into meditating or whatever it is that you do. But it's going.
I definitely want to do it again. The conversation is great, and I have a lot more questions for you, actually. But is there any last plug that you want to give before we go?
Man, last plug. I plug all my friends and fellow artists who are in this struggle right now, trying to keep their head above water. You guys are important. You're important to the world. You're important to yourselves and your families, and creativity is important. Don't let anything hinder that. So don't give up and just go do any menial job. Try to stay creative. At least keep whatever work that you're doing within the realms of creativity, and go to drawsome.com and sign up for the app, because I think it'll be beneficial for anybody who's trying to make a living as an artist. I'm just trying to do the app, make that even easier for you guys. So to you,
Thanks,
to
man.
you, the artist.
And
I love you guys.
next time we'll talk about a caravan life and psychedelics.
All
I
right.
can't wait to share my psychedelic experience with you. So, yeah.
Please do. We'll have a lot to talk about.
Okay, cool. Love you, brother. Good talk.
Yeah, I love you too, man. All the best to you and yours, and congratulations again. Excited for you
Yeah.
to see what it's like to bring a little human into the world and make sure they don't die.
I think I could.
That's about all there is to parenting, especially
Yeah.
in the early days.
I said I think I can probably accomplish that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for having me on, man. Sorry I was a little, evasive. It's been busy.
It's all good,
But
man.
I'm glad
Great
we made it
talk.
happen.
All right.
Yeah, same to you, brother.
All right. I'll talk to you
Keep
soon.
it up.
All right.
Take
Cheers.
care, Sam.